Today, I want to share a story with you how I made it through medical school. Actually, I got a dual degree. I did my MD MBA program with three little kids, a husband that traveled 100 miles one way from work to back because he was active duty Air Force 100 miles away. He'd drive 100 miles there and come back, and taking care of a grandmother who had breast cancer and a stroke during my third year of medical school. So I'm going to share with you the one thing that saved me. Well, there were two. We'll get to that in a minute. But by the way, if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Lori Marbus. I'm a board certified family and lifestyle medicine physician. And I've been a doc now for a couple of decades. And some of my favorite things to talk about are behavior change, how to make things easier for you so you can do those things that we know we should do. So let's go back 20 some odd years ago when I had three little kids. I had a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and 1-year-old. And I had wanted to be a doctor since I was 10 because I saw my sister get healed by a surgeon and I wanted to do that. And it honestly, you know what? My husband asked me to marry him. I said, well, I want to be a doctor. If you don't have a problem with that, great. If you do, you're gonna have to go find someone else. And I loved him, don't get me wrong. But I had that desire so deep within me, I knew it was going to happen. And that's how strongly I felt about it. I think that's step one. But step two is I also wanted to be a mom and I wanted to have these kiddos before I got wrapped up in medical school. And that's what I did. So when I started medical school, my daughter and I started kindergarten and medical school at the same time. She didn't cry. She ran off and had fun. I cried. But as I got going in medical school, I had my MD MBA program. So it was quite challenging. I love to study and I love to learn, but that wasn't so much it. But there was just so much other stuff, right? If anyone who has kids and then stack medical school on top of it and an MBA program, you're just going to feel overwhelmed unless you do something that I found that I just did naturally, just because I'd done this through high school because I worked through high school and I didn't have a lot of opportunities. So I had to create my own. But when you think about it, there's just one thing I did. It's because we all will have well up of resistance, right? We'll feel this desire not to do something. We don't want to go running. We don't want to meal prep. We don't want to, cook the plant-based foods. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. There's one thing that really, really helped me. And this is really where I discovered the 2-minute rule. And it literally made my life so much doable. And so when you think about it, the secret to staying productive, even when things can feel overwhelming, when you start thinking about medical school, it's 4 years and then there's 3 years of residency. That is too much. If you have to lose weight and it's 100 pounds, I've had patients tell me, it's like, I can get started, but then I start thinking of the finish line, right? The 100-pound weight loss, the marathon you're training for, whatever it is. For me, it was medical school and residency. If that's all I had thought of, I would have been overwhelmed and wanted to quit. So when you find yourself kind of ruminating on the future and just like you just can't do it because you get overwhelmed with thinking of all the things you have to do, this is where the 2-minute task comes in. This is where micro habits come. This is where breaking it down into steps that you can actually overcome by doing little bits at a time. And that is exactly what I did, right? When you think about a 2-minute rule, like if you know that, let's say that I had to study and there's a lot of volume of information we didn't use computers like we do now. And we had, we literally would, we'd all chip in and some of us would sit in class and scribe notes and then we'd pay for them to be reproduced. I mean, this is how we did it back then to survive. We all kind of chipped out. But for me, when I get these notes and you're just like, oh my God, there's just so much, or, oh, there's a pile of laundry that I need to fold, or, oh my gosh, I need to feed these kids, or, oh my gosh, I do need to exercise. All of those things can just weigh you down. And then before you know it, you're just sitting there like, you can't. He's like, I can't move. I'm paralyzed by overwhelm. I know what you're feeling because I've been there. So this is where, again, the 2-minute rule is simple, right? It takes less than 2 minutes and you do it immediately. If it takes longer, just commit to working on it for 2 minutes. So how many times in my head, now that it's just become second nature by doing this, is that I had so much to study. I'd say, okay, Lori, just read the first page. It's 2 minutes, right? If I need to cook a meal for the kids. I'm like, okay, what can I do in 2 minutes? And I understood that it probably would take more than that, but I just had to get started, right? So I'd buy things that, one, we were on a budget. We didn't have a lot of money, but I was like, what can I do to make this simple? Can of beans, using the oven when we can. If we had a slow cooker, we did that. All those things that you can use, like, what can I do in 2 minutes? Let's just get started. I remember, I think it's called Tybo. Wasn't it called Tybo? So when I had these cassette tapes, yeah, the VHS tapes, I would use those to exercise. And they were, I think, 25 minutes long, 25 minutes. And honestly, that's how sometimes I'd start. If I needed, I was like, I have to exercise. I was very determined to exercise because I was also going to be active duty Air Force, right? When I was finished with medical school, I was going into the military. It's like, I have to stay in shape. So I have to run. I have to ride my bike. I have to do something. So I used Tybo tapes when I was like early morning before I went to school or whenever. But sometimes it was like, all I had to do was I put in the tape and maybe I only had 5 minutes, but that is what I did. And this really breaks it down to like, what is the smallest thing that you can commit to? 2 minutes, 2 minutes of walking around the block, 2 minutes of jumping jacks, eat an apple. It'll take you, a few minutes, something you can grab, a banana that you can eat on the way out. It's just whatever it is, the 2 minutes is just in the time frame. If you need to do something to get started, to kind of go over the resistance, maybe it's, drafting a presentation. Sometimes when I think about all the presentations that I've given, sometimes it's like, man, I really don't want to create another presentation. And so what I'll do is like, just pull up the PowerPoint and make the title page, make the title PowerPoint slide, because when you put together a PowerPoint presentation, or if you do this for work or you're crafting an email or doing anything, you're like, there's just so much I need to do here. What can I do? So just do that first little bit. Break it down into the smallest piece possible, whether it be time, whether it be, a number of reps. Maybe it's just a slide in a PowerPoint presentation. Maybe it's just, I can't make a whole plant food dinner today, but I can add a serving of beans on my plate. Open up the can and throw them in the bowl and have some beans. I can't commit to this, but I can do that. So let's say you want to eat healthy in the morning. Well, this morning I don't have the 15, 20 minutes to make the silicone oats, but I do have some rolled oats. I'm going to put those in the microwave, throw those in a dash of soy milk, throw in some berries, bam, I'm done. Right? So this is what you can do. It's literally a 2-minute rule because it keeps things on track, right? Because it makes things feel, from impossible to possible, right? If you feel exercise feels impossible, just start for 2 minutes, right? You don't have an hour to work out, but you always have 2 minutes. So instead of skipping exercise completely, just commit to doing maybe 2 minutes of body weight exercise, like 2 minutes of push-ups against the wall or the counter, any stretching, anything like that works. Sometimes that's all you need to do, right? It's enough to keep the habit alive because habits will be created with repetition, given the same context in an environment. So that's what you need to aim for. So let's say that, you want to eat healthy, right? So maybe that seems overwhelming. If you have kids to feed and no time to cook elaborate meals, just prep one healthy snack maybe, right? So whether it's cutting up veggies or grabbing those nuts instead of a sugary snack, that could be better too. When you feel, again, like I said, studying felt overwhelming, you just read one page, right? You just read that first page. You're still making progress. And it got to the point, then I started thinking outside the box. It's like, well, what else can I do to make this fun? What can I do to make this 2 minutes fun? So I started doodling concepts within my studies. So I started with pharmacology and I would create doodles to help me remember things. And then it just became fun because I love to draw. And before you knew it, I actually published 7 books. When I was in medical school, my first year residency, they were called Visual Mnemonics, and Blueprints for Clinical Procedures was the 7th book. And that all started because I was looking for ways to keep myself engaged, focused, and help me remember things better. There's all sorts of things. And then let's talk about sleep, right? Because sleep deprivation was real in medical school and residency. What you have to do, because you have so much to do. You have things to do with the kids. You have all sorts of stuff going on. But what you really have to focus on is what can I do for 2 minutes to make tomorrow's easier? What I did, I started creating lists. So because your brain doesn't like loops that aren't closed, right? So what I would do is write down list. Okay, this is what I got to deal with tomorrow. And it seems like that was enough to put it in the filing cabinet in my brain. And it would be like, I'll be here for you tomorrow. You can open the filing cabinet tomorrow and retrieve this. And that's exactly what's happened. And I still use that today. I will write a list of things I need to get done per business and personal. I write the 3 things that I have to get done most important today. I focus on the number 1, 2, and 3 task. And then the next day I do the same thing. If one was done, I rewrite the list and compile it. It's like 1, 2, 3. Sometimes something new pops up. Sometimes those things fall off. What is the one biggest thing you can take care of, right? That would maybe break that down into smallest pieces possible. So again, lots of things you can do, but sometimes you just have to get started. Just break that down in that small little piece. There's so many time productivity hacks I could tell you and ways to do it. But honestly, the first piece is just getting over the mental and emotional resistance that you build up by dwelling on all the crazy things you got to get done. So I hope that's helpful. Like another one that I hear people is like, they can't go to the grocery store because there's just, they don't have time. Well, then you know what? Maybe you just think, okay, I can just run into the grocery store, grab a bag of pre-cut vegetables so I have them at home to steam if you don't have anything at home, right? So, or maybe you keep a list of your favorite recipes handy in the car and you know the ingredients. Maybe take that with you because it is dangerous to walk into a grocery store without a list, especially when you're tired and hungry. Don't do that, guys. So anyway, just want to share with you those 2 minutes really can save your life because all you have to think about it's 2 minutes, 120 seconds. It's like heating up your coffee, right? It's just you put something in the microwave and 2 minutes later it's hot and boiling and you're ready to go. That 2 minutes can literally make you or break you. Just 2 minutes, right? Yeah, I hope that's helpful because so many times people tell me they're just feeling overwhelmed and it doesn't have to be. All we have to do is use our brain to break it down into the smallest thing you can do. So tell me below, what would be the one thing that you're not wanting to do? You're feeling overwhelmed and dread. How could you break it down into smaller? Give me a solution. Tell me what you do. Maybe share this with help others within the comments. That's a lot of fun. And hope you found this helpful. I know it helped me survive medical school with 3 little kids before we had the technology and all the amazing stuff. So have a great day, everyone. As always, thank you for being here and sending gratitude, joy, love, and healing your way, as always.